Hey everyone. So this is going to be the video series for Project 3. Some of this has been completed in class already. Other people, whether they attended or not, might want to watch it again. Disclaimer though, it will not go step by step. I'm not going to solve every single step for you guys so that we complete it together like I did the poster for Web Design 1, but it should be enough that you can complete the steps. Okay, so through problem solving, critical thinking, I'm going to give you some support, and they should be able to utilize the skills from last semester's course, this semester, and your design classes and other courses to complete the steps that I don't cover step by step, right? Because in industry, you're not going to have all the steps covered. You're going to have to try to troubleshoot them yourself. And that said, I know that this isn't the real world yet, but we're preparing for it. So I gave you some support, and now you're working towards independence as well. So we want to make sure that we have a root folder or project folder with a root folder and a working, right? So no brainer, Project 3, and inside of that, you should have your root folder and your working folder. Inside the working folder, okay, you want to have something like comps and docs, and maybe you're going to have other things in there. Maybe you're going to download a bunch of, raw images that you wanted to supplement the raw ones that you used previous to this semester. Maybe you have a bunch and you want to add to it, right? Because you can always change things up a little bit. Okay, but for me, I just have the docs folder and the comps. Now, the docs folder should eventually, have a Word document or text edit or whatever text document you want. And inside of it, it should have the share link that you're going to generate from Adobe XD. All right, that's all part of part 1 of Project 3, which I'm going to go over in a video in this series. All right, so that is where that will be. I'll simply click on it in due time and give you that check mark that you were able to generate that. Also, I've placed all my spec documents in here. They're available for you to download if you go to the announcement, all right, March 23rd to 27th. I have a lot of stuff in here. And if you go down past the theory docs, which a reminder to study, by the way, because test is coming up week of April 6th. And here is the video series. All right, so here is the spec document for part 1. I'm creating this guy right here, followed by these two. Here's the spec document for part 2, and here's the spec document for part 3. Okay, so make sure you download those, and I would place them for good keeping inside the docs folder here too. Okay, so I'm going to refer to this in a moment. Once you have done that, you want to open up your comps folder. I usually call this the PSDs folder, right? But this time we're using Adobe XD to generate it, so it's not going to be a PSD file when it's done. So I just called it comps. And you can either, as you know, design from scratch inside of XD if you want, using other templates, resources, as long as you customize it for your subject matter, which is Portal Fall Fair, or you can design in Photoshop first, okay, and then import it into the XD, which I'm going to go over also. So I'm just showing you the root structure right now and the working structure. Okay, so that's kind of what it will look like when you work through those steps. And then the root folder obviously will have your HTML files. You require the home page plus 3 internal pages, any subtopics that you want related to the Portal Fall Fair. Maybe you're going to use JavaScript, maybe you aren't. That's totally optional as long as you use media queries and the grid to lay out and structure your page, then I'm happy. Okay, so again, if I show you this sample, which isn't perfect, this student didn't get perfect, but it was one of the better ones. Okay, so we're going to go over here, and remember, you're going to be able to inspect, and you're going to be able to see whether it's the grid or not. So there's the container. Here's the separate nested header div. Here's the separate nested main div for the main content area, right? So one use of grid for the entire layout, a separate one for the actual header over here, and then another nested one just for the main body or the main area over here. And I'm displaying the numbers and the areas. And when I go and shuffle it, okay, we know that eventually it will break. When it reaches the breakpoint, there it is. I'm not sure if that's the mobile one. There should be one in between there somewhere. All right, there we go. Okay, and it's flipped over still. Now there's obviously an issue there. And like I said, it wasn't perfect, so it has a little bit too much room at the bottom. Would have lost some marks there. Okay, but at least you can see the modeling. And that is the home page, all right, converted from the 3 different viewports in Adobe XD. This is just an overview video. From there, we got to go into the 3 internal pages. Okay, what you place inside the internal page is completely up to you, but I want it to be more than simply just a subheading and a paragraph. All right, make it interesting. If you want specific elements, I usually give you that. This time I'm just saying beef it up a little bit, use some variety and add some content. And if you're unsure, once you do that, you can always ask me. All right, but again, you want to fill up the space. You don't just want a tiny bit. When you're going to pages and you only see like, you know, a paragraph or an internal, it's like, why even bother, right? So you want to be able to open it up and see some worthwhile content there on all of your pages, whatever they are. Okay, so that is basically an overview of part 1 and part 2, which is the home page, and part 3, which is the internal, which are the internal pages. What I didn't show you is W3C optimization and AODA, specifications or guidelines, which I'm going to lecture about and you'll see in the video series. So it's just an add-on to your internals. You still develop it using the grid and media queries, make it responsive for 3 different viewports. You don't need to do any design work in XD for the internal pages unless you want to. All right, you just basically duplicate the index, keep the header, keep the footer, and then swap out what's in the middle. And if you keep the featured image area, again, you just got to swap out the content. Okay, and then layering that with AODA considerations and making sure it's error-free when you test it against W3C markup validator. Okay, so it's called making sure your markup is valid. So that is what we're looking at here in terms of the project 3 completed with all the different steps. As I mentioned, I'll expand upon the AODA and W3C validation in my video series for part 3, but this is the overview for the entire thing. And now we're gonna get right into looking at individually importing prototype links, shareable link, again, not in great detail, but hopefully enough to make you understand how to do it. And then another series again with using the grid to do a sample site. And then another one still internal pages, AODA and W3C, and then concluding with zipping it and uploading it to the Dropbox. I don't know if I'm going to do a video on DCA Server or not, because you should know that by now. But again, this has been an overview for Project 3. Here are your spec documents, place them in your docs folder, and we're going to pick up with the next one, importing PSD into XD. Thanks, guys.